Okay. Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu, can you just go to where we stopped last time? Can you read?
Me, Prabhu?
Yeah, there are no volunteers, I guess, today.
Yeah. The GBC men met and decided that aside from Prabhupada's will, which would secure the ISKCON properties, and aside from making all the bank accounts within ISKCON secure, there were also a few questions which they should put before Prabhupada before it was too late. These questions, such as how future disciples would be initiated, would have to be answered. Otherwise, they would become a source of speculation and havoc after Srila Prabhupada's departure. A selected committee from the GBC came before Srila Prabhupada as he sat up in bed in the main room downstairs. Sat Sarup Das Goswami was to be the spokesman, and he felt shy and uneasy to come directly before Srila Prabhupada and ask about what should be done after his passing away might seem impertinent. But it was necessary. Srila Prabhupada himself had requested that the GBC come to Vrindavan and take care of exactly this kind of business. Besides, for a disciple to feel foolish and awkward before Srila Prabhupada was normal. And certainly the mission of Srila Prabhupada's disciples continuing his movement was so grave that its importance transcend the awkwardness of the moment. Nevertheless, Srila Prabhupada was Srila Prabhupada, and even though apparently invalid, he was awesome as ever. If he were displeased with the questions, then it would be frightening. Srila Prabhupada said, Satsarup, we were all asked by the rest of the GBC to come to ask some questions. These are members of the original GBC as you first made it out. Our first question is about the GBC members. We want to know how long should they remain in the office. Srila Prabhupada spoke slowly and deeply. They should remain for good. Selected men are chosen so that they cannot be changed. Rather, if some competent men are found, they should be added. Srila Prabhupada took the opportunity to recommend that Vasudev become a GBC member representing Fiji. Add him, said Prabhupada, but the GBC is not to be changed. Satswarup asked what to do if a GBC member gave up his post, and Prabhupada said that the GBC body should elect another man. Our next question, Satswarup proceeded, concerns initiation in the future, particularly at that time when you are no longer with us. We want to know how a first and second initiation would be conducted. Yes, said Prabhupada. I shall recommend some of you. After this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating acharya. Ramakrishna interjected. Is that called Ritvik, acharya? Yes, Prabhupada said, Ritvik. Then what is the relationship of a person who gives the initiation? Asked Tatsarupa. He is Guru, said Prabhupada. But he does it on your behalf, said Tatsarupa. Yes, that is formality. Because in the presence, one should not become Guru. So on my behalf, on my order, Amare Agya Guru, he is actually Guru, but on my order. So they may also be considered your disciples. said Saraswati, referring to the persons initiated on Prabhupada's behalf by the Ritvik Acharya. They are their disciples, said Srila Prabhupada. Now he was speaking of initiation after his passing away. They are the disciples of the one who is initiating, and they are my grand disciples. When I order you to become guru, you become regular guru, that's all. And they become the disciples of my disciple. The GBC members present The GBC members present were satisfied that Srila Prabhupada's reply to the intricate inquiry was clear and conclusive. Later, he would select some of you, and whoever he selected could become the initiating guru. What he had already described many times throughout his Bhaktivedanta purports was now being implemented. His disciples would become guru and accept disciples of their own. Satsarupa next asked about the BBT. At present, he said, no translated works are to be published without your seeing and approving them. So the question is there any system for publishing works in the future, works that you may not see? That we have to examine expertly, Prabhupada replied. He accepted the principle that future works could be translated from Sanskrit, but he cautioned, but amongst my disciples, I don't think there are many who can translate properly. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, Kirtananda Swami, we think that you cannot leave us very soon. I don't want to, said Prabhupada, but I'm obliged. What can I do? If you don't want, then Krishna won't want, said Kirtananda. Srila Prabhupada went on to describe the special qualifications for translating Sanskrit Vaishnava literature. It would take a realized soul, he said. Otherwise, simply by imitating ABCD, it will not help. My purports are liked by people because it is presented as practical experience. It cannot be done unless one is realized. It is not a matter of scholarship, added Bhagavan. Lord Chaitanya says, said Srila Prabhupada, Amara Agya Guru. One who can understand the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can become Guru. Or one who can understand his Guru's order in Parampara, he can become Guru. And therefore I shall select some of you. By repeating himself, Prabhupada emphasized his point. He would select who would be Guru. And he also repeated his other point. So there is no question of changing GBC. Rather, one who is competent, he can be selected to add by the vote of GBC. Of course, if somebody falls away, Kama Krishna proposed, just like in the past, GBC men have fallen down, they should be replaced, said Prabhupada. They must be all ideal acharya. In the beginning, we have done for working. But now we should be very cautious. Anyone who is deviating, he can be replaced. There are few questions answered. The GBC men sat silently before Srila Prabhupada, awaiting any further instructions, but anxious not to tire him with their presence. So Srila Prabhupada said, Tama Krishna, there is a chanting party ready to do some kirtan. Maybe they can come in. Srila Prabhupada had already given the outline for his will to Tama Krishna Goswami. The GBC would be the ultimate governing authority in ISKCON. 3 trustees would be assigned to each ISKCON property. The money in Prabhupada's name in various banks would become ISKCON's property. A small pension would be allowed for his ex-wife and sons. Even while the GBC was gathered to make a thorough draft and make the will legal, Srila Prabhupada received a visit that made him anxious over his ISKCON society. One of the Goswamis of the Vrindavan temple visited and praised Srila Prabhupada. But in the course of the conversation, the man asked, after you, who will take charge of the property? As soon as the gentleman left, Srila Prabhupada called for Gopal Krishna, Kama Krishna, and Bhavananda also gathered. In India, you can understand, there is an undercurrent, said Srila Prabhupada. Undercurrent? Undercurrent? Ramakrishna repeated. An undercurrent is going on, said Prabhupada, that after my demise it may be taken away from my hands. Phew! You understood that from this discussion? Asked Ramakrishna. I understood it long ago, said Prabhupada. How are you going to guard yourselves? Once again, it was Prabhupada who had to make them aware of worldly wisdom. He ordered that we form a trust property with lifelong trustees, said Ramakrishna. Actually, this property is the envy of all India. They are the best properties. They envy our prestige, said Srila Prabhupada, our position, everything. Everywhere we are first class. For Srila Prabhupada, a will meant protection for his ISKCON. As Srila Prabhupada had explained, a devotee has not a tinge of self-interest. Everything is for Krishna. But in his purity, he must not be naive. ISKCON was a large, growing organization of properties and monies intended 100% for use in the devotional service of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada called on the GBC to be vigilant. When his GBC man discussed privately the details of the will, Srila Prabhupada lay in bed anxiously concerned about the ISKCON's properties. He didn't attempt to eat, and Upendra had to massage his chest. Later that day, while surrounded by a sweetly chanting group of devotees, he again brought up the threat. There is a big plot going on, he began. They are very troublesome. Ramakrishna, who knew what Prabhupada was talking about, said that this should be done immediately. Make a trust property. This shall be done, said Srila Prabhupada. Very nice. What Prabhupada was asking was not unusual, but it had to be done soundly, expertly. And that meant Srila Prabhupada would have to do it himself. He wanted no more management, but could his disciples assure him on this point of greatest anxiety that the institution's properties and monies would be protected? Ramakrishna spoke up to assure Prabhupada of the GVC's competence to deal with this. This shall be done for all the properties, he said, but especially here in India. Srila Prabhupada, said Bhavananda Goswami, the trustees should be designated. Trustee without designation. Prabhupada replied, where is trustee? I have already made one draft of trustees for the book trust. In that style, make it. Yes, said Tamal Krishna. So we will make up a draft on that style, and after the draft is approved, you can tell us which trustees you want. Oh, you can select amongst yourselves, said Prabhupada. Why you are taxing me? While Ramakrishna mentioned that the three places in India, Bombay, Vrindavan, and Mayapur, were the most important, Srila Prabhupada replied, everywhere. Then he added, among yourselves, there is no strong man. This is the difficulty. This is a fact, admitted Ramakrishna. All my child, said Srila Prabhupada, a statement of love, but not of relief, and it requires a very strong man. This is lacking. In every minor detail, I have to open my mouth. Anyway, whatever you have got, sit down and select trustees. And that format is there. Make it a trust. Among you, Rameshwar is a little intelligent.
Rudradi Prabhu, you got disconnected. Hare Krishna. Looks like he got disconnected. Try to call him.
Hare Krishna, where did you lose me, Prabhu?
Among you, Rameshwara is a little intelligent.
Yeah. Among you, Rameshwara is a little intelligent. Anyway, do your best. Otherwise, there is a very little, otherwise, there is a very, very big undercurrent. They're waiting for your program. Ramakrishna assured Prabhupada that they would immediately have a meeting. We will discuss these points. Oh, discussion I've already given you, said Prabhupada. Do it. What I meant, said Ramakrishna, is we will execute it. All right, said Prabhupada. Don't delay. At times like this, it became especially clear that the day was approaching when Prabhupada's children would have to grow up and lead, manage, protect, and expand his society on their own. They might well these might well be their last chances to learn directly from him and to be close with him for chanting the holy name and dedicating themselves utterly to carrying out his desires for ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada seemed to be doubting whether his children would rise to the occasion, and they expressed doubt. And that expressed doubt impelled them not to discouragement, but to determined action to prove themselves loyal and competent. That evening, a GBC committee reported back to Srila Prabhupada that the will had been drafted with provisions for the protection of all ISKCON properties through specified trustees. Rameshwara read the will before Prabhupada, who made only a few comments. This will make it impossible for anyone to cheat, said Rameshwara. Yes, Prabhupada agreed. As far as I can see, even regarding matters of utmost concern to him, he sometimes remained quiet. He had dedicated his he had directed his GBC men as far as possible. Now he mostly wanted the medicine of the holy name. But what they had done was all right. He was satisfied. As the committee was leaving his room, he softly exclaimed, Jai, future directors of ISKCON. And later, when alone with his servants, he shed tears and said he could now leave peacefully. A few days later, the final version of the declaration of will was notarized with the presence of a lawyer. The document began. The governing body commission, GBC, will be the ultimate managing authority of the entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and went on to cover all the points of concern regarding ISKCON properties and management. Most of the 23-member GBC body was still gathered in Vrindavan, but their immediate business was completed. Srila Prabhupada's health appeared to be slightly improved, a blessing the devotees and Prabhupada attributed to constant chanting. Srila Prabhupada even ate and digested some fried food. He also spoke of attempting to resume his early morning translating work. The GBC men, each of whom had pressing leadership and administrative duties within their respective zones, began to feel the need to return to their posts. Aside from their chanting shifts in Srila Prabhupada's room, usually for 3 hours twice a day, they had no other service in Vrindavan. The weather was so unbearably hot, up to 120 degrees. When some of them expressed their plans to return to their areas of work, Prabhupada gave his permission. They had been together for a week, and now one by one they began to disperse. Within another week, most of them had left Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada and his small staff remained, and the constant chanting continued, performed by the devotees of the Krishna Balaram temple. As soon as June came in Vrindavan, the weather remained very hot. The sky, which had been a clear blue, turned hazy as the first moisture arrived. Between noon and 4 p.m., the ground was too hot for bare feet, and the residents of Vrindavan would stay home, confining most of their activity to either the morning or the late afternoon and evening. Even eating was excluded from the midday since the heat killed the appetite. The Yamuna was shallow and hot, giving little relief. The cows were gaunt from lack of grass and feed, and occasional hot, searing winds raised dust clouds. Flies and mosquitoes died in the air. One of the few pleasant features of summer was the fragrance of bellflowers that climbed among the walls around Prabhupada's garden, somehow thriving in the dry heat. In the first days of June, Srila Prabhupada experienced some hope of recovery. He asked to resume his morning rides and even being brought down to the car. He said, "Soon I'll get down and walk myself." His old friend from Allahabad, Mr. Ghosh, came and diagnosed his disease as anxiety for the devotees and the Krishna conscious movement. Srila Prabhupada agreed, but he didn't follow the doctor's orders. Since they included his having his blood pressure checked regularly and taking various medicines and special treatments. But by receiving messages from his servants, he felt that he was improving at this rate. He said he would be all right after a month and a half. But he stressed, "I'm not leaving Vrindavan until I'm well." One morning, Srila Prabhupada asked to go to see the deities, and his men promptly moved him in his rocking chair before Krishna Balaram. Sitting in his chair beneath the tamil tree, Prabhupada looked up at the transcendental brothers, while many tears glided down his cheeks. "They're dressed very nicely," he said. While he basked in the presence of Krishna and Balaram, he enjoyed the soothing shade of the tamil tree. "The contractor wanted this tree cut down," he said, "but I would not allow. There are not many tamil trees left. These worldly men do not know." Srila Prabhupada started coming down regularly each morning to see the deities, an event that gradually grew to become a daily temple function involving ISKCON devotees and guests alike. Prabhupada would sit in his rocking chair under the tamal tree, and devotees would lead kirtan, while Prabhupada and all other devotees chanted responsibly. For Prabhupada's disciples, chanting with him in the courtyard of his temple in Ramanareti, Vrindavan, was the essence of the spiritual world. Although Prabhupada's body was apparently sick, he was still as alert as ever, and every morning he would notice who was there and who was not. The devotees grew to love this special opportunity to associate with Prabhupada, and as he sat in his rocking chair, gazing at Krishna Balaram, Vrindavan residents and pilgrims would also gather around Prabhupada, often offering money, which they would place at Prabhupada's feet, while the energetic young Gurukul boys danced before Prabhupada, and the pilgrims continuously flowed in and out, offering obeisances and rupees at his feet. And while one of the secretaries fanned him with a large chamara whisk, Srila Prabhupada sat gravely yet simply with his attention fixed on Krishna Balaka and Balaram. Sometimes he would sit in the private garden adjacent to his main room. A devotee had built a plaster fountain there in the shape of a large pink lotus, and while Srila Prabhupada sat in the little alcove surrounded by flowering vines, the splashing of the fountain pleased and soothed. An occasional monkey would come over the wall into the garden looking for something to steal, and Prabhupada would have it chased away. Otherwise, he sat silently conversing away occasionally with one or two disciples. One day in the garden, Srila Prabhupada was recalling the simple but civilized life he had known as a child. He mentioned the various ceremonies his mother had observed during pregnancy to allay the dangers connected to childbirth. Though his voice was soft and weak, he was still inclined to speak. So much care was taken for the children, he said. Now these rascals are killing children, most uncivilized life, two-legged animals. Even in these days in India, in the interior villages, their life can be peaceful. They have enough grains, enough meal to live peacefully and chant Hare Krishna. And they are going to live and they're going there to give this sterilization. Srila Prabhupada was referring to Indira Gandhi's policy of compulsory sterilization. One of the devotees present had just come from West Bengal, where he had been traveling on a boat down the Ganges, preaching and distributing prasadam in the villages. Srila Prabhupada began describing to him how the villagers they made a simple bread ball from atta, whole wheat flour, and bake it inside an open fire. The same fire, it is called kandi fire, using cow dung chips, the Prabhupada said. They put one pot upon this fire and use it for dal. Then after some time, you see if it is boiled. Very nice. This ball would be cooked in ghee. It will be first class. When the fountain splashed gently on and the pigeons and the green parrots fluttered and chattered, Prabhupada continued to talk freely. He recalled his horoscope at birth. After 70 years, this man will go outside India and establish so many temples. He said he hadn't understood at first that he would actually have to go. But when he had finally gone to his US, he had no intention to ever returning, except for the stroke he suffered in the United States in 1967, he said. He would not have come back. That means Krishna desired, he said. Otherwise, I had no plan to come back. Therefore, I took this permanent residence. Do you regret having come back to India? Asked Ramakrishna Goswami. No, said Prabhupada. My plan was like that, to stay. But Krishna's plan was different. When I was coming back, I was speaking to Dwarkadish. I came here to preach. I don't know why you are dragging me back. That was when I was leaving Los Angeles. I was not happy, but he had his plan. Pretty nice plan, commented Kamal Krishna. Srila Prabhupada continued. Krishna said, come, I will give you a better place in Vrindavan. You were retired in Vrindavan and I asked you to leave. Now you have come back, but I will give you a better place. So he has given me a temple 100 times better than any other place. Is it not so? An article entitled Srila Prabhupada Seriously Ill appeared on the front page of the Times of India. On hearing this article, Srila Prabhupada commented, unless they think Bhaktivedanta Swami is important, they wouldn't print this. Giriraj wrote to Srila Prabhupada that many sympathizers had phoned the Bombay temple asking for more information. One of the temples had issued a statement which the Times of India carried a few days later on the page 3 under the heading Srila Prabhupada now better. So was Srila Prabhupada seriously ill or better? I may live or die, he said. In either case, I'm with Krishna. But he confided, I asked Krishna to give me enthusiasm to continue up to death. A soldier should die fighting on the battlefield. At Srila Prabhupada's request, Ramakrishna was replying to all correspondence and assigning his own name as secretary, as he wrote in one letter. Under the circumstances, it is not possible for me to read the letters to Srila Prabhupada. I simply inform him of any good news which comes, and so I have told him of your successful town hall meeting as well as your other preaching activities. These letters were almost as valuable as Srila Prabhupada's, since they were often filled with direct quotes from Srila Prabhupada. One evening, Srila Prabhupada called for all the available sannyasis. He said he was feeling tired, but like a father happy to have his children with him, he said, you should all come to be with me like this, and I feel better. One day, while sitting with Srila Prabhupada, Ramakrishna began to describe the pastimes of Krishna as depicted in the painting hanging to the right of Srila Prabhupada's prasadam table. The painting showed Krishna and his cowherd friends eating lunch. Srila Prabhupada looked at the painting and then, closing his eyes and thinking of Leela, said, "This is the highest perfection of life. I have concluded that whatever is done without Krishna is simply waste of time. What will they think of this?" Prabhupada's moods moved and varied within the realm of transcendental emotions and attitudes. To some of the disciples attending him, he said, "I'm thinking I'm a worthless person, taking so much service. There is no way I can repay you. I'm poor in every respect, financially and spiritually." Srila Prabhupada, Ramakrishna protested, "Our only desire is to serve you." "I know," Prabhupada replied, "and it is the only reason I am living. All over the world, things are going on by your sincere service." But occasionally, Prabhupada would still re- reprimand an errant disciple. When in dressing Prabhupada, Upendra gave him a lungi that was too small. Prabhupada called him a fool and a rascal. And when Tamakrishna did not attend Prabhupada one morning due to having a cold, Prabhupada was critical. "I was never neglectful about my duty in any field of activity," he said, "even business. Dr. Bose loved me very much. He was giving me checks to sign for 40,000 rupees. I was never lazy or neglectful in duty. I would do it honestly and try to make it perfect. Only I was neglectful when I was involved with my young wife. Then I neglected my studies. That was due to circumstances. And then I neglected my wife. My father said I was fortunate not to like my family. Krishna saved me through so many circumstances. This material life is checkered." Early one morning, Srila Prabhupada awoke suddenly. "I had a dream," he said to the devotees attending him. "There was a big assembly of drunkards and chanters. The drunkards were madmen. Some of the drunkards were becoming chanters. They cannot stop fighting. The drunkards were so crazy." "Were you there also?" asked Ramakrishna. "Yes, I was standing there also." "Were some of the chanters becoming drunkards?" "Chanters cannot fall down," said Srila Prabhupada. "Their names are listed. Back to home, back to Godhead. They are in Krishna's family." After the GBC assembly in Vrindavan, Swarup Damodar had traveled to Manipur and Calcutta and was now returning to Vrindavan to see Srila Prabhupada. As soon as Prabhupada heard Swarup Damodar had arrived and asked to see him, as usual, Prabhupada treated him very specially and gave him much time and attention. From Prabhupada's first meeting with Swarup Damodar, when Swarup Damodar had been uh, Taudam Singh, a PhD candidate in organic chemistry at UCLA, Prabhupada had taken care of to cultivate their relationship. Taudam had grown up in Manipur, but after graduating from high school, had come to America to continue his education at the University of California. He had been attracted by the devotees chanting Hare Krishna on the streets of Los Angeles and had visited the temple. When he met Srila Prabhupada, he became convinced that he had met a genuine spiritual leader. At first, Taudam had maintained his stance as a representative of the world of empirical scientific knowledge, and Srila Prabhupada had invited him for morning walks on Venice Beach. Day after day, Srila Prabhupada would draw Taudam into arguments about the origin of life. When Srila Prabhupada was ready to argue, he would glance around and ask, "Where is the scientist?" And one catching sight of Taudam, he would ask, "So what do they say?" Taudam would then argue about life had risen by chance and through chemical evolution, and Srila Prabhupada would smash the argument with stunning display of logic and common sense. Thought by regularly associating with Srila Prabhupada and by reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is, had become more inclined to Krishna consciousness than no material science, than to material science. And eventually he had become Prabhupada's intimate, initiated disciple. Swarup Damodar said, Swarup Damodar Das. With Srila Prabhupada's encouragement, Swarup Damodar had soon received his PhD and pledged to serve Srila Prabhupada through scientific lectures and writings against the theories of modern atheistic science. Srila Prabhupada was well aware of the powerful sway science had over people everywhere, and he was out to combat their godless propaganda. He knew that Bhagavad Gita was the highest science, and how he saw how outrageously prejudiced many modern scientific assumptions are. Where, for all their high technical jargon and faith in the scientific method, the scientists were actually ignorant of the origin of purpose of life. Sarabdamada and few other devotees holding graduate degrees had formed the Bhaktivedanta Institute and were working with academic circles to establish the scientific basis of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada had been especially pleased when at large meetings the scientist Sarabdamada had challenged the Nobel Prize winning scientist who held that life was a phenomenon that occurred at a certain level of chemical complexity. If I give you the required chemicals, Damodar had asked him, would you be able to produce life? And the embarrassed scientist had replied, I don't know. Repeatedly, Srila Prabhupada had referred to that incident in his conversations and lectures. Srila Prabhupada often praised the work of Sarup Damodar and Bhaktivedanta and the Bhaktivedanta Institute and assured them that the BBT would provide funds for their printing, research, and building projects. He had given them the arguments, and they were developing them with scientific language. Now Sharp Damada had come from have come had come for more association with Srila Prabhupada, and after offering obeisances, he presented Srila Prabhupada with several pink lotus flowers. Srila Prabhupada took one in his hand and opened the petals, and the others he gave to his secretary for presenting to the deities. Sarab Damodar had also brought several ripe pineapples, and Prabhupada immediately asked for a glass of fresh pineapple juice. Sarab Damodar was arranging for a conference of scientists in Vrindavan to discuss the origin of life. He had been meeting with various scientists and professors, many of whom had shown interest in Sarab Damodar's approach in participating in the conference. Sarab Damodar's read Prabhupada the prospectus he had prepared announcing the upcoming conference. Prabhupada listened silently and at the end said, all glories to Sarab Damodar. Later in afternoon, they spoke again. It seemed that Prabhupada was never too tired or too indisposed to speak with Sarab Damodar about defeating materialistic science. Sarab Damodar was getting hope from his conversation with scientists, he told Prabhupada. I think they're interested in the program we're making. Otherwise, they wouldn't make time to discuss. Some of them feel our approach is unique. There is no other such proposal, said Srila Prabhupada. They have taken God as something mystical, especially in the rascal Darwin's theory. They had become like animals, and they are seeing everyone as animals. This rascal has convinced them. Your grandfather was a monkey. How could they become a son of a monkey? But this is going on. A grand rascal, this Darwin, and his theory is taken the greatest principle of anthropology in the whole world. So scientists by combined meetings should speak out against this Darwin theory. On the day of Sarab Damodar's arrival in Vrindavan, the first rains also arrived, indicating the end of the summer and the start of the monsoons. Heavy rains beat down while Prabhupada and Sarab Damodar continued talking. Prabhupada said that the Vedic evolutionary theory had been presented in the Padma Puran thousands of years before Darwin. If we can get some big scientists on our side, said Sarab at least a few, that will be enough. That I am asking, said Prabhupada. Ramakrishna figured that Srila Prabhupada would be tired after 2 hours of talking, so he interrupted. Would you like a kirtan party start? Kirtan party now, Srila Prabhupada? But Prabhupada corrected him. This is kirtan now going on. People have to understand what is kirtan. Any topics on Krishna, that is kirtan. Sukadev Goswami became perfect by kirtan, but what kind of kirtan did he do? He was speaking the Bhagavatam, answered Ramakrishna. Yes, said Prabhupada. You are simply thinking drums and kartals as kirtan. But anything we do here is kirtan. There is no material connection here. We're not talking how to increase our business and enjoy women and wine. That is not our aim. Ka uttama shloka gunanuvadat. We're trying to establish Krishna. This is kirtan. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu. Did you know this? Taking this remark as his cue, Sarabdamodar went on to speak about scientists who he had met who were interested in the proposed Origin of Life conference. I am thinking of the title of our conference, he said, as a Bhaktivedanta Vigyan conference in Vrindavan. No, said Srila Prabhupada. They will take it otherwise, thinking that Bhaktivedanta is not a jnani. They will take it lightly because Bhaktivedanta Swami is not a scientist. One of the devotees said that Bhaktivedanta actually indicated the highest science, and Srila Prabhupada agreed. But to understand bhakti, he said, was very difficult for the ordinary man. Why not life comes from life? Asked Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada and Sarv Damodar immediately agreed. Making something extraordinary, said Prabhupada. We're not just some magicians like the other yogis. There is money, intelligence, and I can give you inspiration. Inspiration.
Okay, can you just stop there for a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, we saw here how Srila Prabhupada is very meticulous in every activity that he does, the drafting of his will, replying to questions about how the movement would go on in his absence, especially about the gurus. Prabhupada is also very sharp. He understands that unless a will is made, a trust is made with trustees, his properties may be in danger from other residents of Vrindavan, not only in Vrindavan, other places. So Prabhupada was very meticulous in trying to tie up all these different things before he departed from the planet. There is a parallel to this in our Gaudiya Vaishnava history, dating all the way up to Shri Jiva Goswami. I'm not very sure. I've seen it, but I'm not sure if it is in the Bhaktivedanta Research Center in Calcutta, ISKCONs, or elsewhere. But there is a will that Jiva Goswami wrote about how the Radha Damodar temple that he had built would be handled. So Srila Prabhupada took his service to Krishna very seriously, and he wanted that every element of it is looked into properly, not just for the present but also for the future. So he was demonstrating how an acharya behaves, how acharya thinks, how he acts. So he prays. Earlier we saw how Prabhupada said, "My only prayer is that I may remain enthusiastic in Krishna's service until my last breath." So here again, we see that when Tamal Krishna Maharaj asks Prabhupada about, would you like to have a kirtan party now? Srila Prabhupada replies, "Why, this is not kirtan." So Prabhupada considered that the propagation of the Krishna consciousness movement is kirtan. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had called the books as the Brihat Mridanga. The Mridanga that we normally play can be heard across, say, a few hundred feet. But the Brihat Mridanga can resound across the whole world. And Srila Prabhupada's definition of kirtan is the definition of kirtan that we all need to understand, which is that any propagation of the Krishna consciousness movement is to be considered kirtan, not just taking the drums and karatals and sitting down. And the best kirtan is distributing the Brihat Mridanga, the books. And we notice how Prabhupada, uh, uh, when it comes to Kirtan, Prabhupada says, okay, glorifying Krishna is Kirtan. So uh, we all know how Rupa Goswami gave us the 5 essential principles of uh, devotional service, which is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Srimurtir Sevanam, which is to worship the Supreme Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the association of devotees, and Mathura Vas, uh, to live in the association, to live in a holy place. Uh, I just want to make this remark that Prabhupada gave another essential element of devotional service. He says in this book, Life Comes from Life, you find that definition. He says, the more you kick Darwin in the face, the more you will make spiritual advancement. So that's another 6th element which Prabhupada introduced to the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I remember when I was a university student, uh, you have these college debates, and Prabhupada said we are not interested in debating mundane topics. So they go through different rounds, round 1, round 2, and like that. For each round, they have a topic. So it was very interesting that in the final round, the topic was, does God exist? Now, I found that very irresistible. Although I had not participated in the earlier 3 rounds, the final round was about, does God exist? So I wanted to just speak somehow or the other, get an opportunity to speak on that topic. And if you're not qualified yourself through the 3 rounds, which are our first 3 rounds were all mundane topics, so I just didn't bother about it. So then I did something. I went and spoke to the uh, organizer of that debate, and I said, just like in tennis, lawn tennis, you have got something called a wild card entry, or probably in other sports also. So then I said that I know I'm not qualified through the 3 rounds, but considering my appearance, considering my background, would you permit me a wild card entry? I don't need a prize. I don't need anything. Can you just allow me to speak? And then he was convinced with my argument, and he allowed me a wild card entry. And I said I want to speak last. I think that's something which 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 nobody would object to. If I were to ask first, they would object. So I was hearing all the different arguments that different people were proposing. Some people were speaking in favor of the proposition that God exists, and some people are saying God doesn't exist. So I heard all kinds of arguments. I didn't hear any argument scientifically presented like the way Prabhupada presents about how God exists. So finally, they gave me a chance to speak, and I was remembering at that time that the more you kick Darwin in the face, the more you will make spiritual advancement. So I was thinking, here is my opportunity. And I mean, it is a prestigious university actually. I mean, and there it was it's an important event in the university. So I thought, okay, here's my moment, and I can try to please Srila Prabhupada. So I remember someone had spoken about uh, Darwinism. So it was everything worked out very well for me because the previous speakers had spoken about Darwinism and all that. And so in my presentation, I started off with how even in science, this is a very important thing that everybody cannot read a proof. It's not that, for example, some things can, for example, electrons, or for so many things cannot be directly perceived with our eyes. You need to have uh, certain qualifications to understand proofs also, mathematics also. You need qualifications to understand certain mathematical proofs. It's not that anybody can understand. So I just brought up that as the premise by saying that it is not that anybody can understand the existence of God. You need qualifications to understand the existence of God. I spoke about it. And then we're coming to Darwinism. I remember this was the moment of the whole debate, you know. And uh, I said, well, I referred to one particular speaker, and I referred to him by name, and I said, "You said this when you spoke, you know." And then I said, uh, "I have seen my grandfather. I have talked to him. I am sure that he was not a monkey." Then I told him, "Check if your grandfather was one, you know." And I remember at that time the whole audience burst into laughter. You know? So that was for me the most fulfilling moment of that whole episode, and for whole debate thing. And of course, I had made several valid points from Prabhupada's teachings, and from life comes from my life especially. So I mean, just this memory just came to me that how Prabhupada is he was so, I mean, he just could not handle Darwin's theory. You know, that's so much so that he said the more you kick Darwin in the face, the more you'll make spiritual advancement. Okay, so these are some thoughts. Any reflections, questions, comments? Shailesh, I see that your microphone is unmuted. Are you going to say something?
Sorry,
Or?
apologies. Yes, I was going to say something. My apologies. It was unmuted whilst you were talking, so there wasn't background noise. So I have a question. Some clarification on Prabhupada's definition of initiating guru and this Ritvik reference. And we have, of course, this modern day Ritvik rubbish movements as well. So could you give more understanding in terms of this terminology, phraseology, and what and how we should be understanding? Prabhupada's instructions are clear, yet these guys are obviously manipulating that and using the Ritvik reference in a different context. So perhaps you could give some clarification on that.
See, I wish to say here that I wish to take Prabhupada's conversation directly. You know, so what I mean by that is that if you read the conversation directly, of course, here it's not an exact replica of, it's not an exact verbatim presentation here. It is summarized a little bit. But if you look at the actual conversation, Prabhupada says, he answers by, I mean, especially one minute, let me just go to that. This question is written as it is. Concerns our next question, Satsaru proceeded, concerns initiation in the future, particularly at that time when you are no longer with us. We want to know how a first and second initiation would be conducted. So Prabhupada's instant reply to that is, yes, said Prabhupada, I shall recommend some of you. Okay? And so that's the instant response, which means that Prabhupada is clearly thinking that he's going to recommend some of his disciples to to give first and second initiation. There's no ambiguity about it. Then Prabhupada says, this again is verbatim from the conversation. Although, I mean, some things are verbatim here in this book, some are not. But this part is verbatim. After this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating Acharya. So Prabhupada is first of all saying that I will recommend some of you. After that is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating Acharya. Then it's Tamal Krishna Maharaj introduces the term, is that called Ritvik Acharya? Prabhupada doesn't use it. Anyways, doesn't matter. Prabhupada replies, yes, it's called Ritvik. Then the question comes up, then what is the relationship of that person who gives the initiation? And Prabhupada says he's Guru. Then Satsuru Maharaj says, but he does it on your behalf. Yes, that is formality. Because in my presence, one should not become Guru. So on my behalf, on my order, Amar Ajna Guru, he's actually Guru, but on my order. you know. So, and later on he says, I mean, this is not here. He says they are his disciples. Why disciples? When they ask whose disciples are there, Prabhupada replies, why? Who? I mean, they are his disciples. When I order you become guru, you become regular guru, you know. So, and disciple of disciple, all this he clarifies. There is no other way if you take this book and read the conversation, there's no other way than to understand. There is no second understanding. I mean, if you take it literally, clearly what he's saying is, when he is present, he will recommend, he will order some of them to act as regular gurus. You know, that's what he says. But of course, I asked my own spiritual master, I think he was there in the room, that from the conversation, it appears that even during his physical presence on the planet, he wanted to order some of his disciples to act as regular guru, because he's saying this, that is formality. Because in my presence, one should not become guru. So on my behalf, on my order, Amar Agnya Guru is actually guru, but on my order, he's actually guru. Prabhupada says. Then Sasur actually asks, so these people, whom these Ritvik Acharyas, whose disciples are they? Prabhupada says they are his disciples. I mean, this means uh, whoever is initiating his disciple, he says. Anyway, so from the conversation, if you read it, there is no other way to understand that even during his physical presence, he wanted some of his disciples to act as regular gurus on his order, because that's a formality. He cannot become uh, one is because in my presence, one should not become guru. So on my behalf, on my order, Amar Agya Guru. So it is that was the understanding. So I asked Japatak Maharaj, my spiritual master, that His Holiness Japatak Maharaj. So that from the conversation, there's no other way to understand than that Prabhupada, during his physical presence, also he wanted regular gurus. So his reply to that was, but in the minute books is recorded that after his departure, they'll act as regular gurus. That's how it is recorded in the minutes book, you know. And so he said that was the understanding at that point, that after his departure, they'll become regular gurus, not during his presence. Although the conversation it reads like that. Clearly, there's no other way of reading it. Anyway, so but after this happened, this is on the May 28th of May 1977. Then there's another conversation on the 7th of July 1977. So there's a difference of about I mean it's almost 1 month and 10 days later. So in that conversation, there is this thing that there are prospective disciples writing to Prabhupada to be initiated. What should be done with them, especially first and second initiations? So then Prabhupada says, okay, here so and so can do, here so and so can do, here so and so can do. When it comes to India, Prabhupada says, India, I am here. So which means that he's thinking that he can do it in India. But later he says Japataka is there, like that. So, and then there was a July 9th letter where we said that, but in that July 7th conversation, Prabhupada was asked specifically, so these disciples whom they're initiating, who's this? They are to be, their names have to be sent to your disciples' book. And Prabhupada says, yes. Now, this could lend credibility to the understanding that on 28th of March, 28th of May, Prabhupada is actually referring to regular gurus after his departure. During his departure, whoever is going to initiate, they're going to be sent to his record book. That's only one possibility. There is an equal possibility that Prabhupada spoke like this on 28th, but by July 7th, he had a different, he changed his mind, or probably he just, okay, at that point, it's July 7th, he said, okay, they'll be my disciples. So both of them cannot be ruled out. But whatever be the circumstance, whether it, I mean, this or that, in all cases, it is very clear that after his departure, there are going to be regular gurus. I don't know where the ambiguity is coming from. There is no ambiguity because Prabhupada repeatedly uses the expressions like disciple of my disciple, grand disciple, regular guru. So, I mean, I don't find it ambiguous at all. You have to do an extraordinary effort to actually make it ambiguous or screwed up. That's what they do.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, no, thank you for that clarification. I mean, even from what we've read, I mean, I haven't done a thorough analysis of Prabhupada's, sort of words and etc. But even from what we're just reading, it's very clear what he's saying is, no, they will be their guru. I mean, so they will be their disciples. It's very clear. He's
Yeah.
asked a question specifically, and he answers it in an absolutely sort of ambiguous way. They'll be their disciples. So I'm just confused by this word Ritwik as well, because I'm not quite sure what it means.
So
The definition.
I think the confusion arises because does the Ritvik Acharya become the regular guru after proper disappearance? This is where they are. What do you call it? This is where they're trying to say that the Ritvik Acharya did not get an order from Prabhupada to become a regular guru after his departure. This is their basic essential contention actually. That the Ritvik Acharyas did not get a direct order from Prabhupada that after my departure, whoever you're going to initiate are going to be your disciples. So something like that. So I remember there was a paper written by Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu called where desire and order are non-different. If you look at Prabhupada's purports to the Bhagavatam, he says Lord Brahma desired, and then he says his sons disobeyed the instruction. So first is desire, but then when Prabhupada uses the word desire and order interchangeably, so there are many places, not just one place. So here he's clearly saying, when he's asked Prabhupada, there's no ambiguity in his mind. Yes, I shall recommend some of you. After the settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as Obedient Acharya. So the transition from Ritvik Acharya to regular guru is what is being contested. But I mean, they don't have to necessarily get a separate order. These people who are handpicked by Prabhupada would naturally go on to initiate after his departure. That's a given. But nevertheless, there could be some logical. The arguments are based on logic. Actually, it's not based on the person called Prabhupada, his desires and things like. It's more based on logic, which doesn't stand because logic always has to be seen in the context of the person. So that's where they've tried to exploit that. They've used logic by trying to sever it from Prabhupada. I mean, it has to be connected to Prabhupada. You can't sever it from Prabhupada and apply it, independently.
And why do our current gurus, when initiating, say on behalf of Srila Prabhupada then? I mean, obviously that is courtesy, but that lends it, because Srila Prabhupada didn't initiate when he was initiating on behalf of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. I don't think he was saying that. So why have we adopted this new? Because that lends itself back again to doing sort of disciples of Srila Prabhupada again.
Actually, I've not asked anyone why they say so, but there are two things. I mean, I would say that it's fine to say there are two reasons why it's fine to say that. First reason would be that as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Prabhupada also in his books, generally the word guru refers to an Uttamadhikari actually. Generally, it's not that others cannot be guru, but the volume or the body of Prabhupada's works and everywhere else, it's quite clear that most of the times is referring to Uttamadhikari as a guru. Or, I mean, that's what it is. So, when someone takes a position that I'm doing it on behalf of Prabhupada, he's trying to say that I'm trying to perform my duty as per my adhikar. But since we all belong to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because Prabhupada has ordered us to do it, I'm doing it like that. I mean, that's one thing. This other thing is, on behalf of Prabhupada means that previously you had the concept of Mathadipati, the head of the Matha. So what a Mathadipati has got an autonomy kind of a feature. in the sense that, for example, Prabhupada set the standard of chanting 16 rounds. Now, if someone is a Matadipati or head of a Mata, he has every right to change things according to what he thinks is suitable. But Prabhupada's disciples or no member of ISKCON has a right to change anything that Prabhupada gave. So in that sense, they're doing on behalf of Prabhupada. That's another understanding of they're doing on behalf of Prabhupada. They're following the formula which Prabhupada gave. So we are all being delivered together in the Sankirtan movement. Someone is playing the role of a guru and someone is playing the role of a disciple. But they're all falling within the specified formula given by Prabhupada. Krishna consciousness has been given by all the acharyas. It's not that only Prabhupada gave Krishna consciousness. But what stands out is that, not what is unique to ISKCON is there is a certain formula which Prabhupada has given, which is like waking up in the morning and singing the samsara prayers. We are not supposed to sing some other prayer at 4:30 in the morning. Similarly, the daily Guru Puja, the Bhagavatam class. So it is not just Krishna consciousness which Prabhupada has given. Prabhupada has given a specific formula for Krishna consciousness. Not just but a formula. Formula means all terms in the formula have to be exact. For example, E is equal to mc square. Energy is equal to mass times the speed of light. It is mc square. It can be mc cube or m squared c or whatever. So all the elements of Krishna consciousness may be there, but there is a particular formula which Prabhupada has given for ISKCON. So when a guru in ISKCON is initiating, he is saying, I am doing the same. I'm just going to adopt. I'm just following the same formula which Prabhupada gave. I'm not introducing a different formula for all of you. That's another sense of saying that I'm doing it on behalf of Prabhupada. These are the two understandings that I have, what it could legitimately mean.
Thank
One
you.
is
That's
based on
very
their
clear.
adhikar. Yeah, one is based on their adhikar. The other is based on what is the system that they're following.
Thank you. That's very clear. Just out of interest, I'm sorry, I'm going at a little slight tangent, but
No.
where we just talked about the standards that Prabhupada has set, and like, for instance, Samsara Dava has been sung every morning. But why in ISKCON Vrindavan there's different prayers then? Because we have different sets of prayers in the morning in Vrindavan.
That's a good question. I think someone has asked me this before. I haven't inquired from anyone so far, but my understanding is that ISKCON Vrindavan Mangalarti begins with the Samsara prayers directly in front of Srila Prabhupada. So generally, Mangalarti in Vrindavan actually means attending the Samsara prayers, then going on to sing Vaibhava Shesha. When it was introduced in the history of it, I don't know. But still, Samsara prayers are the first prayers that we sing. We can always sing additional prayers with Acharya. There's no harm in that. That's fine. But we cannot give up on the prayer that Prabhupada asks us to pray the first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that makes sense, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Sorry for deviating
No, not at
from the
all.
subject.
I also thought about it, but I never asked anybody. But see, okay. One thing that assumes significance is that I have heard that in Naran Maharaj's Math they sing Vibhavari Shesha. So I don't know if it is him who introduced it, but irrespective of that, even if it was, it still doesn't matter because of the fact that we still sing the Samsara prayers as the first prayer in our morning. We sing everything else that Prabhupada gave also. To add a prayer by an acharya is definitely not. It's fine, but as long as we don't give up on any element of the prayer which Prabhupada has given us. Like in some temples, they sing Sadgoswami Ashtakam after the 10 offenses. Some temples, they sing Siksha Ashtakam. That's all that is fine. Anybody else has any thoughts or questions or reflections? Okay, I can see that Indulekha Kripa Mataji, you're back. Would you like to read?
Sorry, Prabhuji, really, I am not in Hyderabad still because I'm not feeling well. Really, I have come
No,
for one retreat. I have few questions and some realizations from this. Maybe by next week I will speak about it, Prabhuji.
sure, okay.
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhuji.
Next
Really,
week,
I
I've
am
not
missing
said
the.
whether we'll have a class. I'll inform you
Yeah,
one day in
I'm.
advance.
Yeah, I'm missing. I'm missing the service, Prabhu. Really, I'm missing the service. But because really, I'm in under some treatment and all, so I'm not.
No
I
worries.
could
No worries, Mataji. Don't worry about it.
just hear it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. For next week, I'll tell me some realization here in the retreat place also, and some other questions also, Prabhu. And I'll read
Next week,
definitely from.
I would be in a car. I mean, I expected to be in a car at this time traveling to Vrindavan. But if I mean, I would definitely want to. I don't have any other engagement. So
Okay.
if the internet connection works well, then definitely we'll have a class. I
Yes.
think it should work because we are the
Okay.
national
Okay.
capital.
Yes. Okay. But definitely, that from next week, I will definitely do my service, Prabhu.
Okay, Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu, you can continue. Haribol, Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. I'm just finding from here, yeah.
Wait,
Srila
from
Prabhupada's
that's a different
comments
section.
often implied that his bodily condition was of no importance, either to himself or to his followers. And this was, in fact, an important instruction regarding the Guru's body and his instructions. The spiritual master would not always be physically present, but in the form of his instructions, he was eternally available for the sincere disciple. And that association was as real and personal as physical association. In fact, the ecstasy of serving in separation was greater. The Shastras state that the body of the pure devotee is spiritual, but that his physical presence in the material world is temporary. As Srila Prabhupada had said of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, his passing away meant he had gone to serve Krishna in another place. Srila Prabhupada had instructed his disciples regarding the body of the spiritual master in the book, The Nectar of Devotion, instruction. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, with which sometimes, due to the rainy season, are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges water do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in Ganges without considering the condition of the water. The devotees working closely with Srila Prabhupada do not think he was deteriorating, no matter how he appeared. He was just giving them another opportunity to serve them. If he wanted to eat or didn't want to eat, if he was pleased or displeased, if he appeared well or ill, they would respond accordingly out of duty and love. This mood was becoming increasingly prominent as Srila Prabhupada more and more depended on his disciples to help him carry out all his functions. He had said he was remaining in the world only to satisfy the disciples' sincere desires to serve him. Yet he continued to emphasize that their service to his physical form was not as important as their following his instructions. When two of Prabhupada's sannyasis were taking leave of him, he smiled pleasingly and said, I may stay or go, but in my books I will live forever. When he heard that 40,000 hardbound books had been distributed in 1 week, he said, if book distribution increases, I will never die. I'll be living for centuries. Ramakrishna remarked that the book distribution reports were one kind of news that didn't give Prabhupada a headache, and Prabhupada smiled broadly. No, he said, it is my life. But one day, while sitting in the garden with Ramakrishna, Sarvadhamma, and others, Srila Prabhupada became very disturbed when he detected a mistake in one of his already printed books. Ramakrishna was reading aloud a verse from the first canto which began, Munyaha sadhu prishtoham. Srila Prabhupada had him read the synonyms. Ramakrishna read, Munyaha of the sages, sadhu, this is relevant, prishtaha, question. Munyaha, asked Srila Prabhupada. Thus he uncovered a thoughtless mistake made by the Sanskrit editors. This is an address. Here the verse translation properly reads, O sages, but someone has changed the word by word translation to of the sages. Srila Prabhupada became very angry and denounced the rascal Sanskrit scholars. A little learning, he said, is dangerous. Immediately they think they have become big scholar, thinking I shall arrange. And then they write all nonsense. He continued speaking about the mistake for half an hour. He was disturbed. He ordered Tamal Krishna to write at once to the BBT and stop these speculations by his disciples, changing his books in the name of editing. The devotees were startled to see Prabhupada so angry. He was supposed to be peacefully relishing of Srimad Bhagavatam reading here in his garden. Such a change was very serious. He said because it changed the meaning. Even if the authorized acharyas would make a mistake, he said it would not be changed. This is Ashra Prayoga. In this way, the acharyas are honored. By Srila Prabhupada's strong reaction to this one printed mistake, he was again stressing the great importance of his books. Whatever I have wanted to say, he explained, I have said in my books. If I live, I will say something little more. If you want to know me, read my books. Srila Prabhupada was especially pleased by letters he received from Ganesham, who was distributing books in communist countries of Eastern Europe. Ganesham was a member of the BBT Liberal Library Party, which was systematically traveling from country to country all over the world, placing full sets of Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Caitanya Charitamrita in university libraries. In daring forays into communist Europe, Ganesham was meeting with success. On hearing his report, Prabhupada's demeanor transformed. My books are the real communism, he declared with enthusiasm. I'm writing for the whole human society. My philosophy is to unite human society on the basis of Krishna consciousness. And that is actually happening. Why is the black man working for me and the white man also? How much potency this boy has. Practically, he's preaching in the jungle. The people do not know the language, and still they're giving him standing orders. Prabhupada had said that the only real medicine for him was kirtan, and kirtan, he had explained, included preaching around the world. For Prabhupada, who was taking so little food, the chanting of the holy name and kirtan of preaching reports, and his disciples seemed to be not only his medicine, but sustenance as well. On the evening of the day Prabhupada received Ghanshyam's letter, he learned that Gopal Krishna arrived with copies of several newly published Hindi books. Prabhupada had been lying in bed, but on receiving the good news, he raised his eyebrows and said, Bring them immediately. Gopal Krishna entered with the books, and Prabhupada immediately sat up in ecstasy. Years ago, Srila Prabhupada had begun a large Gurukul in Dallas, Texas. But when the Texas state government had begun imposing too many restrictions, Prabhupada advised in 1976 that the boys' Gurukul to be moved to Vrindavan, India. The school should be moved to our new Gurukul project in Vrindavan. The facility will be built just to suit the needs of brahmachari to develop spiritually. To live in Vrindavan as is the highest perfection, and to grow up in Vrindavan is the greatest fortune. Even to live in Mathura Mandal is for a fortnight guarantees one liberation. In Vrindavan, no one will place restrictions on the school. It will be encouraged by the government. Thousands will send their children to be trained as human beings and devotees. The atmosphere in Vrindavan is beyond compare, and the Krishna Balaram Mandir is the finest in the world. By June 1977, the Gurukul building in Vrindavan was near completion, and the devotees managing the Gurukul were contemplating opening the building in a few months. They were discussing how the rooms should be used, including which rooms would be for staff, offices, and residences. Although Srila Prabhupada had not been consulted on these details, he seemed to know what was going on. And one morning, he told his secretary he would like to see the new building from the top to bottom. After taking darshan of Krishna Balaram, he was carried in his chair for a tour of the new building. Pleased with the construction, he remarked, "By Krishna's grace, everything has been done very nicely. The second floor was one continuous white veranda which connected many rooms. With many connecting rooms, the person in charge explained, Tama Krishna God, Tama Krishna, having one room for residence and one for an office. Very comfortable, Prabhupada remarked. He heard and observed everything, occasionally making suggestions. There should be a flower garden and a fountain in the central courtyard. I think there is no other building equal to this. And in Vrindavan, he said. And they came to the first floor. Maharaj, one of the temples in Vrindavan, don't do that. Don't misuse even 1 inch. Yeah, you were saying you wanted 500 students, said one of the Gurukul teachers. So we would keep as much space as possible for the students on the floors. Yes, yes, said Prabhupada. That was the point he wanted to that was the point he wanted stressed. But then another devotee remarked, we are going to have administrative offices mixing here, both for the temple and the Gurukul. No, said Prabhupada, you have to invite children here. Otherwise, what is the use of building such a big building? Not that we have 3 dozen managers and 4 students. Although Prabhupada's soft voice was sometimes lost amid the noise of construction, and although his comments were made intermittently while being carried from place to place, his message was strong and clear. Now we have a big facility, he said. So bring students. That is the first principle. We have to get the students first. We have to get the ISKCON students first, said one of the teachers. ISKCON or FishCon? Said Prabhupada. Bring students. Prabhupada's wordplay made the devotees laugh. But he was serious. It is a Rakshasa civilization, said Prabhupada, and he began mimicking the cry of a typical street vendor. Do rupaya, and no knowledge. Krishna says, Tata dehantara prapti, but all they can understand is 2 rupees, 4 rupees. Where they will go in eternal life, they do not understand. They do not understand eternal life. Gita. This darkness is going on, and people are kept in darkness in the name of so-called university education. So our Gurukul will be successful. It may take time. After touring the Gurukul facility, Prabhupada had the devotees place his chair once more before returning to his own rooms. With most of the resident devotees of the Krishna Valar Mandir, including Gurukul students, gathered around him, Prabhupada made his emphatic point. You're thinking of management, he said. This manager and that manager, and what rooms to utilize. But my question is, Who will you manage? Bring that person. In Bengali, there is a superstition that you should not lie with your head toward the northern side. So one man said, but I have no head. For me, what is the question of keeping it to the northern side or the southern side? So your contemplation about management is like that. First of all, who will you manage? Simply considering office manager and this and that is not good. First thing is to bring students, then it will be successful. That afternoon, Srila Prabhupada said he would speak to the Gurukul staff. They gathered in his room, and he instructed them as only he could. He who was empowered to lead in the world organization of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Our next business, he began, is to approach the well-to-do businessmen and tell them, children of your family are expected to be educated with good behavior, good character, and devotion. Janaka Pandit says, what is the use of begetting children like cats and dogs? They must be learned to follow the Bhakti Marg. We will teach your sons these things. Canvas like that. In the present society, he said, even the Prime Minister's son may be a douche, dubesh, debauch. The demon Hiranyakashipu hadn't wanted his son Prahlad to be a devotee, but to be like himself, a cheater and a diplomat. And today's society was comprised of little Hiranyakashipus. But our idea is to create Prahlads, Srila Prabhupada continued. At least 250 students can be accommodated nicely throughout India and the whole world. You cannot bring 250 students. What kind of managers are you? I say bring 500 canvas like this. I fall down at your lotus feet. I flatter you 100 times. Kindly hear me. In this way, canvas. You have to bring students, not just rooms for management. Prabhupada said that if the Gurukul was successful and if ISKCON had got more standing in the future, the government could take guidance from ISKCON and not allow people to cheat, claiming to be Brahmanas or Kshatriyas without the training. These things are now a dream, Prabhupada admitted, but it should be done. I'm thinking of so many things, but my life is ending. So keep these ideas. You especially, because you are young men. July brought the rainy seasons to Vrindavan. Clouds began building and from the beginning of the month. And by mid-July, it would be raining daily. The perfumed odor of the kadamba flower was heavy in the air, and after rain, the neem blossoms would give off their onion-like aroma. The peacocks, with their full feathered tails, became ecstatic, dancing, cooing and calling. Sometimes a sudden rainstorm would come, even while Srila Prabhupada was sitting on his bed or at his dictating desk in an unsheltered part of the veranda, and his servants would rush out to move him inside as quickly as possible. Sometimes the rain prevented his using the garden. He would recline instead on a little porch overlooking the garden. But at least the 120-degree heat was broken. And the days became more bearable. Prabhupada quietly rested and continued his day's routine, waiting to see what Krishna desired. He would often wake about 6 a.m. and open his eyes to see Tama Krishna at his bedside. He would then extend his hands, indicating that he wanted to sit up in the bed. Tama Krishna or another servant would then lightly stroke Prabhupada's back while Srila Prabhupada spoke his mind. Very few devotees were visiting Vrindavan, and guests were rarely allowed to see Prabhupada. His health was not improving, nor did it seem to be at crisis point, and as it had been in May. But because he was hardly eating anything, he was not building his strength. His main treatment consisted of hearing Kirtan, Srimad Bhagavatam, and chanting and Chaitanya Charitamrita. One of the topics which Srila Prabhupada dealt with during these days was the conception of model universe for a Vedic planetarium. His disciple Ambrish, great-grandson of Henry Ford, had pledged to donate for constructing a gorgeous museum planetarium in a major city such as Detroit, or Washington, D.C. Srila Prabhupada wanted to present the structure of the universe as it is presented in the fifth canto, but so far no one had been able to show how it could be done. The devotees who tried often to reconcile the Srimad Bhagavatam's description with the conceptions of modern astronomy. In Bombay, they had brought a so-called Vedic astronomer from before Prabhupada, but he had been unable to make even a simple diagram. Modern scientists give no credence to the Bhagavatam's account describing the earth as Jwambudeep, an island in the middle of concentric oceans and ideas. Nor do the scientists find mountains as tall as those described in the Vedic literature. Srila Prabhupada cautioned the devotees, however, not to be guided by their own Western prejudices, but to try and understand the universe as described in Bhagavatam. And that was extremely difficult, Srila Prabhupada admitted. When I wrote this, I thought it will not be possible for me unless somebody else helps me. How did you write it? Ramakrishna asked, and Prabhupada replied, Krishna helped me. I don't know. He laughed. That somebody Krishna helped. Inevitably, the devotees asked, but how will we explain it to the scientists? We do not require to satisfy the scientists, Srila Prabhupada replied. We have to describe according to Shastra. If they can understand it, then they will understand it. Otherwise, it is not our business to satisfy the so-called scientists. We're dealing with the real description. Ramakrishna suggested that the planetarium would spell the downfall of the Western civilization. Yes, said Prabhupada, I suppose that they're cheating. Their only interest is to make money, and for this they can cheat. If you can make this planetarium, it will be grand success. Triumphant. In early July, some of the devotees in Vrindavan were working on sketches on the universe according to Srimad Bhagavatam. They were puzzled, however, about how to account for satellite photos of the Earth, which seemed to contradict Srimad Bhagavatam's description. Srila Prabhupada's reply was that the scientists were bound up by their own conditioning and could not go beyond a certain point. When Ramakrishna reiterated that Srimad Bhagavatam's explanation still didn't agree with modern travel around the earth, Prabhupada insisted that it did. You are prejudiced, he said. You are conditioned and so everyone is tied up. They cannot go beyond a point, and they cannot move any way like they like, just like the bull. They have cheated about going to the moon, so how can we believe them? They wanted to explain the whole universe, but how can we believe them? Once someone is shown to be a cheater, he will always cheat. A gentleman will say, I don't know, but they are not gentlemen. They are loafer class. How can we believe them? They said the world was flat. Then Galileo said it was round. And then for this, he was almost hanged. They didn't know, and he didn't know, but our knowledge doesn't change because it is perfect. As soon as there is change, it is not perfect. A few days later, the committee of devotees returned to Prabhupada and said that the question was still unanswered regarding how the Bhagavatam's description of Jambudeep could accommodate the fact of traveling west from Los Angeles and reaching India. In reply, Srila Prabhupada stressed that they not concern themselves now with such a minor issue, and he referred to the Pacific Ocean as a drop of water. The description of Bhagavatam could not be adjusted within the limits of mundane knowledge. Prabhupada gave the example of how, after returning from Vaikuntha, Narad Muni had told a simple cobbler that Lord Narayan was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle. Oh, Narayan is so great, the cobbler had said, but an educated Brahmana has said, it is simply stories. Narada had then asked the cobbler, how can you believe that Narayan was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle? Why not? The cobbler had said, I'm sitting under a banyan tree. There are so many fruits, and each fruit contains so many seeds, which will each grow into a big banyan tree. So the Prabhupada said that with an experimental logic, one cannot understand the inconceivable. Everything is inconceivable, he said, and these rascals want to bring it as conceivable. Don't be puffed up by your so-called education. It has no value. One day, when Srila Prabhupada was sitting in the garden hearing some news from his
I think you
secretary.
can stop there. I think you can stop there.
Okay.
Uh, Hare Krishna. I just wanted to say a few things here. First is in regard to the Gurukul. Srila Prabhupada had a high estimation of the value that Gurukul education can bring to the lives of the children and to the world. So he had a very high estimation of what the Gurukuls could do. In that, we have completely failed Srila Prabhupada. I mean, abysmally failed. And I don't know how that's going to be set right. Then, in regard to uh, the planetarium, Srila Prabhupada's Prabhupada in fact gives very detailed instructions about the Gurukul, which all of which is not covered here, but he gives the basic idea that he wants to create a set of intelligent children who don't waste their lives on economic development, not this do rupiya, char rupiya. The whole world is filled with education geared towards economic development. So he's saying education should not be geared towards economic development. Education should be geared towards self-realization. So Prabhupada was very insistent on that. What is the use of begetting children like cats and dogs? They must be learned and follow the Bhakti Marga. We will teach your sons these things. Canvas like that. Uh, and regarding the Vedic planetarium, it's very important to note how Prabhupada says we do not require to satisfy the scientist. Prabhupada replied, we have to describe according to Shastra. If they can understand it, then they'll understand it. Otherwise, it's not our business to satisfy the so-called scientists. We are dealing with the real description. So Srila Prabhupada is convinced of the fact that Shastric version, it's not the Shastra only presents spiritual truths which are beyond mundane experience, but it also, Shastra also gives descriptions of truths which are within mundane experience also. And it's not that only spiritual experience is inconceivable, even mundane things. Like Prabhupada concludes here by saying that everything is inconceivable, he said. And these rascals want to bring it as conceivable. Don't be puffed up with your so-called education. It has no value. So we understand that even material world is inconceivable. So whatever we can, according to the description that's present in Shastra, we should try to present that with the conviction this is the real description. Okay, any thoughts, questions, reflections on this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have
Yes,
this one. Yeah, there is one mention about the changing of the words in the book. I think every time it has been discussed many times and all. But I have one small doubt regarding this because somebody gave me one book from ISKCON only that why they have changed few words or some things from Prabhupada's books. And they have written in that because there was no time to what to edit or to ask Prabhupada for changes because he wanted them very soon in very high what to say in a very short period of time. So we have seen that also because in 3 months they printed so many books, so many volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and
Chaitanya
all.
Charitamrita, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chaitanya, we knew that one. So in that they have written there was no time. That is why they have changed a few things because there was no time for editing all those things. But when I later read somewhere that because in like I think in this one only, Prabhupada was dictating the purports. He was not writing anything. He was dictating those purports. So how there is a chance that Prabhupada might have made the mistake or for editing those things, whatever Prabhupada has said? Because
Uh,
everything is recorded. It is not that it has been written, no, Prabhu.
okay. Um, there is something called pure grammatical edits, and literal accuracy. For example, uh, in the previous edition of the Bhagavad Gita, in the non-revised edition of the Bhagavad Gita, I'm giving a very simple example. The word pitris, we all know in India what pitris mean, right?
Yeah.
So instead of pitris, he translates it as Neil the typist, who was doing a university project actually, and then he came and he helped Prabhupada. So he types it as, I think it's Neil the typist. Anyway, so he wrote that as, typed it as Planet of the Trees. Pitris was written as Planet of the Trees. So I mean, there are some obvious errors like that which need to be corrected. Otherwise, we look ridiculous in front of an academic world.
Mm.
So those kind of things, I don't have any doubt that Prabhupada would have wanted it to be changed.
Mm.
Not, I mean, that's natural. Prabhupada, that's the whole purpose of editing, right? Not to have such foolish errors in the books. Okay. So, but the debate has been whether the edits are confined to merely grammatical corrections or they go beyond it. Jayadvaita Maharaj and team claim it goes beyond it, but we are doing only what we were doing during Prabhupada's time, which was approved by Prabhupada. Okay. Now, there's another set of devotees who claim that Prabhupada is no more physically present. Okay. So, you're claiming to be doing what Prabhupada, that you did what Prabhupada when Prabhupada is physically present. But there's nobody now to authenticate that claim. So don't do it. Leave it as it is. Just stick with only the grammatical errors. That's where the whole debate resolves. I mean, the revolves rather.
Yeah.
And there is a GBC BBT committee which has been formed to look into these issues. So personally, I think that just a grammatical edit should be done and just book should be left as it is, because in future other editors can come and say we are doing the same thing that the previous editors did. So where does it end? I don't know. So fortunately, we have the original books that were present during Prabhupada's time. So everybody has an access to that. Nobody is I mean, like, it's not that they're lost and that's it. We cannot get them anymore. It's not like that. The BBT of India publishes Bhagavad Gita Macmillan edition. Still it publishes. Apart from the revised edition. There are many more nuances to that, but I'm just trying to keep it very simple.
Yeah,
yes,
I agree with you. There's many nuances. Yeah, when I started reading Prabhupada's books, I was about 14 or 15. It was the original edition. And over time, as I continue reading the books, there is noticeable changes, not just grammatical changes, quite, I wouldn't say vast, but I would say certainly noticeable nuance changes, which I've always had concerned in my mind as to why things of, yes, correct grammatical corrections is one thing, but changes to explanations and translations, quite large scale, were of concern to me, and I didn't understand why. So your input here is been valid. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there have been significant changes. It cannot be denied. The question is whether the significant changes are legitimate or not. I think that's the real issue. Whether there has been a significant change, yes, there has been. I mean, it looks like that cannot be, I mean, undermined. Yes, there have been.
Yeah, I mean, Prabhupada, this is from what we've read so far, and I'm no authority on this, so forgive me for, sort of perhaps, um, sort of assuming things which there may be some more clarity on in other places. But Prabhupada says very clearly that he calls his own disciples rascals and unqualified and little knowledges. So he doesn't qualify them to make such changes. Quite the contrary, he says don't change. From what we've read so far. So why the
That's a good point. See, this whole thing hinges around one person, which is Jayadvaita Swami. What has happened is that in the same, even though in this, if you actually look at the conversation, this rascal editor's conversation, in the same conversation, Srila Prabhupada actually approves Jayadvaita Maharaj. He says he is good, you know. And in the same rascal editor's conversation, Prabhupada says, or the day after, whatever, that series of conversations, he says Jayadvaita's fine, Jayadvaita is good. And later on, I don't know if it's in that conversation or anything, but he said Jayadvaita means Parampara. So there are places where Prabhupada has spoken highly about Jayadvaita Swami. So then the argument is that he's in good standing. Everything is fine with him. So he's doing the same thing which he was doing during Prabhupada's time. But that I don't think is a legitimate argument, because in the sense that I mean, Prabhupada may have glorified him, there's no doubt in that. But after someone's physical disappearance, uh, whether it can be done, that's the whole issue. Where I personally think it should not be done.
I agree with you.
I also had the same doubt, Prabhuji. That's why I raised this question. Because my understanding is also that because Prabhupada is clearly told not to change anything.
No,
That's
actually,
really,
see, Matri, this is where, see, this debate is not going to be settled so easily,
yes.
because in the same conversation or in that series of conversation, he says Jayadvaita is good and Jayadvaita is Parampara, all those kind of things. So that's why this is practically going to be an endless thing. There'll always be both sides of the argument, and just not going to end. So I think that it should be more like an executive decision. Yes, we're going to stop. That's it. Because by argument, I don't think we're going to resolve this. But if there's an executive decision that we have decided from Prabhupada's disappearance onwards, there cannot be any changes. End of story, period. That's the only thing that's going to work. Nothing else is going to work, actually.
On this basis, also that the Ritwik group is also arguing that they are authentic like that because here ISKCON they are changing the books, Prabhupada's books, where Prabhupada has clearly instructed not to change the books and all. Because that is their argument. I have heard somewhere also regarding that.
See, I just want to mention one thing, okay? That I think this may be the experience with several of us. That I mean, not I mean, Shailesh Govinda Prabhu has been very early, but different people like for example, I didn't know for so many years that until I took to Krishna God. After many years after I took to Krishna God, just as I came out to know about the changes in the Gita and things like that. So my point is that the new editions of the books still continue to make devotees. So that is another aspect of it. So that's another argument which I think they use. Anyway, whether they use it or not, but it's a reality that they continue to make devotees, right? And devotees are inspired also. No, the question is not of all. My thing is not a question of all of that. I'm sure the old books also make devotees. So the thing is that can we do it or not? I don't think it should be done. That's it. I mean, it's too dangerous. Even if whatever has been done is legitimate, still it is dangerous. And simply to prevent any danger, it should be stopped. Future, we don't know what's going to happen to the books. If that door is not closed, we don't know where it's. I mean, where the books are going, how much the books are going to change.
Yes.